Hey, do you ever feel like you're running your business and financially you're just kind of like floating down a river and hoping that you get somewhere at the end of the day, that there's some retirement, there's some destination that you get to? Well, you can do more than hope. That's what we're going to talk about today. Intro, intro, intro. Okay, just a quick disclaimer: we are not doctors. We are not, unless you're working on like a PhD or something, Caleb. Um, so we are not doctors, therapists, anything like that. We're just we're certified in our own fields, and we spend a lot of time just building, working on our own businesses, and helping other people that have ADHD running a business, figuring out their business, growing their business, scaling their business, different levels, and we just met through a weird LinkedIn connection stuff. We got on a conversation and just started talking and enjoyed it so much that we said, hey, let's record them and let's share them. Let's do a weird thing, start a podcast. So, welcome, y'all.
Awesome. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun so far, and yeah, always a pleasure to hop on here and just talk about doing business with ADHD. It's a fun, kind of weird experience, and better to do it in community.
For real. Yeah, I totally need that co-working, that body doubling effect on a lot of things. So, all right, Caleb, I got a. We're gonna go uncomfortable today. All right, we're
Ooh,
gonna talk
I like
about
that.
money. Are you good with that?
Oh, that's not uncomfortable. One of my special interests.
Yeah.
Let's go. Hyper
Um,
focus on. Lock in.
So, with running a business and with ADHD, this shame of our business being successful, like we have to prove it. We feel that deeper than most people do. And there's this shame and guilt if anything goes sideways. And one of the things I like to always tell people is if you're running a business, we talk about get work, do work, get paid, and grow wealth. The whole point of that business is so that there's money at the end of the day. Like you have now printed money. The business has you have money. What do you do with it? How do you put that to work? And I've actually, before we hopped on, Caleb, I was telling you, I've had three conversations already this week where business owners basically have said, I'm having a good quarter. Like this is happening. They're taking they're taking their salary. They're getting their owner dispersal dividends depending on the structure. Like things are going well and money's showing up. And like I feel like one of the guys said, "Yeah, I just feel like I'm tucking it under the mattress so that it's all there. Like I'm just making as much money as I can so that it's there later." And I just told him, I was like, "Dude, you need a plan. Like plan for this. Like we plan for everything else. Like we're ruminating and figuring out all these plans and working them over in our mind and shoving it under the mattress, which he wasn't literally shoving it under the mattress, but I learned that future me, like my family as well, but even like future me, I owe it to future me to like have a plan for my money, right?
Mm.
So if you're good, I want to go into how do we know what is a plan? What does it look like to go from looking like success in your business and actually what we've talked about the real success is that it is providing and providing down the line into the future. So you good with that?
Yeah, dude, this sounds great.
All right, I got some questions for you, and
All right.
we'll see where they go. Here, here's one that I think a lot of people probably have, but might not ask it. How do you know that you're ready for a financial plan?
Are you ready for a plan?
Yeah,
Man, that's a really good question. I think nobody just wakes up and goes, "Oh, wow, you know what? I really need a financial plan. Like, this is great. This is how I'm going to start my day. I just really proactively need one." Most of the time when people get to that point is because of like just pressure pushing down on them from the outside to the end where they're like, I feel like I'm paying too much in taxes every year, but I don't really know. Or I feel like I should be making more money. I feel like I'm falling behind. Maybe
yeah,
you hear of some study out there, and Fidelity Investments does this big study every year that tells you what's the average net worth by age that you are. And so if you ever catch wind of that and you're like, oh, I'm 30, I'm supposed to have 300K of net worth, and you go, oh, shoot, I've got like 100K.
I got to
Like,
catch up.
wait,
Yeah,
yeah, literally.
well,
Like, so it's different triggers like that. And I think for a lot of business owners in particular, it's just getting fed up with a lack of knowing what's going on in your
yeah,
personal finances. So like, okay, I've been running the business for 5 years. I've watched my income 5x in that time. but my net worth isn't really doing that. What's going on? I think that's a common
Yeah.
trigger point I see.
Okay, cool. Yeah, two things you point out that really hit me were comparing to externals. Like with ADHD, we are, I mean, externalize everything. That you'll hear me say that all the time. But like that comparison, comparing ourselves to others and all that, we do that. So anytime those numbers are out there, like I fall victim to it too because it's that idea of, well, my best has to be better than everybody else's because my worst is worse than everybody else's. So you
Right.
go,
Shame.
and
Achievement.
yeah, and it's like if you go, okay, well, if at this age I need to have this much money because next year's going to be horrible. I don't know if I'm going to actually get any work. So we constantly hedge our bets. Ironically, we also have a tendency to sabotage certain conversations. But I noticed you mentioned that, and that really hit me because I was like, I have felt that judgment from a PDF that I downloaded somewhere, and I'm like, I feel judged by it. And then the other one you talked about is that idea of when we measure ourselves, like when we get to the point where we are checking, or that idea where you say like just that pressure of growing the business, and then you finally look and you kind of go like, what is my net worth? Like, what is it? Like, um, I've been doing all this work. Is it going anywhere? It's kind of
Hmm.
okay. So,
Yeah, that's a big one.
in that idea where you said you don't just wake up and think I need a plan. But what are some things that if somebody's wrestling with their business, they're growing their business, where you would say it's time to look into it? Like, what are the questions? What are the thoughts in their mind when it's time to go? Okay, yeah, I need a plan. I need to at least consider that.
Yeah, some of those pieces I see like they'll just realize, hey, I'm making a lot of money and I haven't really done anything different. Like I'm making 200 grand a year right now, and I haven't started an S corp taxation yet. And so what you described at the beginning, like, oh, I'm getting my salary, get my owner's distributions. That's actually pretty rare. Most of the business owners I come across, they're very good at their businesses and at making the money. They're just not really often that sophisticated of a crowd of like knowing what to do with it. They don't nerd out on all the
Yeah,
details. They're just like trying to go ahead on the stuff that excites them. Like very different from the engineer crowd who are like the anti-entrepreneurs. They would never have tolerance for the ambiguity of it. They have like the wire framed
yeah,
glasses, drive old Japanese cars, very no nonsense, and they're like, I max fund my 401k every year, my Roth
right.
IRA. Here's
They're
the investments
very,
that I
very disciplined,
yeah.
very structured. Yeah, not the ADHD
And
entrepreneur.
hence this ADHD business owner. Yes, exactly. So like those guys are like the real Dave Ramsey world. Like they've checked all the boxes. They're good there. But at the same time, they never really get to those situations that they blow up their net worth. It just gradually compounds over
Mhm.
time. Business owners very often have the opposite thing. Their income really does 5x in 5 years, and then their net worth stays stagnant and they wonder what's going on. And then all of a sudden their net worth could easily 5x in a couple of years after that if they sell the business or just start putting it
Mhm.
away. So yeah, I think like some of the issues people come in with are usually just the things they perceive when there's actually other more significant issues going on under the surface that they just are not aware of yet. Taxes
Okay.
that they're wasting that they shouldn't be, and risks that they are very open to but just
Yeah.
haven't become aware, thankfully.
Yeah. I think, as you mentioned that, I think that's where it first got my attention. Is I remember there was a point where it was kind of like, hey, I'm making more money. Where's it going?
Hmm.
Like, cash flow has gone up, but my bucket's empty. Like at the end of the day, the bucket's empty. How did that happen? Where's it going? And that's where I first, really triggered that interest because I was like, I want it to stay in the bucket at the end of the day. Like I need to know that's there. And more importantly, my wife wants it to be in the bucket at the end of the day. um, she's
Yeah.
definitely the more structured of the two of us. Um, okay, so go ahead.
And then it like triggers this sort of dopamine fueled FOMO, or maybe it's the opposite of dopamine, where you're like, ah, man, the money isn't going anywhere. And then you start to benchmark yourself to those studies and like, I should have like 400, 500K by the time I'm 40. Oh, shoot, I don't have that. So maybe now by the time I'm 50, I'm going to shoot to have like double the million that I'm supposed to have then. So then you go chasing risk, you go chasing speculative investments. You're like, 401k slow. I've got my target date fund over there, and that's about all I know what to do. But I'm just going to go buy a bunch of shares of Amazon and Nvidia over
Or
in my Roth
you know,
array.
a couple years ago, everybody dove into crypto. It was like, oh, this is what we're gonna do, and I was like, that's. It sounded really, really cool and really, really fun and risky. um,
Yeah.
okay, so next question. If you're thinking, like, if I get to a point, I'm looking, okay, so I got money, I want to do something with it. Where's all my money going? I want to. For me, honestly, it was like I just want to be more grown up. Like I'm running this business, I just want to be more grown up. I want to feel like it's in control, not I'm reacting to everything. What should we have in mind looking for somebody to help us with a financial plan?
Yeah. So from the start, I would just say there really are a lot of bad actors in my industry. Like, it's kind of an uncomfortable thing to start with. Like, assuming the other party's trustworthy. There have been lots of studies done that have shown when people walk into a financial advisor's office, they are mentally framing us against their dentist and their principal from high school. Basically, hey, are you flossing enough? Are you
Nice.
contributing to your 401k? No, hey, you did something wrong here. You're in the principal's office. Like, you're not ready for retirement, and we need to put you on a remediation plan
Right.
here.
They basically
Um,
go in expecting to be disciplined and corrected.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
judged and
Yeah.
corrected totally. And yet, like, even if you can get past that, then there really are a lot of bad actors out there, quite frankly. We are a heavily regulated industry. Like, the SEC has all 10 of my fingerprints and my palm prints, and like the amount of law that you have to study to get here, most of it dates back to the Great Depression and 2008 and the Great Financial Crisis. It's insane, man. Like, so regulated because just all the stuff that
Right.
people have done. Like, Bernie Madoff's a great example of that. Jeffrey Epstein was
Yeah.
actually
Well,
a stockbroker
I would
right
like
away.
I would like
Broke
to
all kinds of.
say, like, I know it was hard for you, and I appreciate all of the stuff that you and folks go through, but at the same time, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, but I do feel a
Oh,
little better knowing that somebody knows.
yeah, I do too. I bring that up not to be
Yeah.
like, oh, this is such a bird, but like, it's even with all that, like, there are still just bad apples out there
Yeah. I've
because anytime you hit an intersection of something being complex and high ticket, like, think about going to the mechanic.
yeah.
You have no idea what he's saying, what he's actually doing in the car. Maybe you, I don't, and I'm just trusting that he's not raking me over the
Right.
coals here. And
Well,
like, oh yeah, your alternator battery needs to get fixed. Like, oh, I didn't know my alternator had a
yeah.
battery. Yeah, sure, go
my
ahead,
my
fix that for
dingle
me.
hopper, what? Oh man. So I have a question, real quick, because you said high ticket,
Yeah,
and I just want to like, because different people, the word high ticket means different things, and I think what
yeah,
you're correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you're saying is like when it's really complex and there's a price number there that's not like a lunch, like it's some kind of investment where you just there's a reaction where you're taking my money and you're if somebody makes me feel stupid and asks
right,
for money, it's a no go for me. Like I have left
100%.
mechanics where they're talking. I'm like, I need to explain what's happening here. Like explain it to me. And if they start, I'm gonna find somewhere else. Like
Yeah.
either that or you need to sit here and wait until I can YouTube to understand what you meant.
Hmm.
Same financial planners. I've talked to a couple of financial planners where I'm just like, they're talking and like I keep up. I'm pretty good with math and they're going and I'm going, that was 109%. Like you're just talking fast. Like you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's just like when people act like that, I'm like, you're not kind. And
right.
two words that I tell my kids all the time is like, be kind, be helpful. Like
Hmm.
those are two things. And if we're in a service industry and they're not being kind and they're not being helpful, I'm just like, you don't actually want my money. I can tell. So you were talking
Yeah.
about there are bad actors. Well, are there some red flags or questions? Like what should like if I'm looking for first time looking for a financial
Yeah.
planner, what are the questions? What are the things I should be looking for?
Yeah, I think you just hit on a really important point there about being both kind and helpful and making sure that you understand that they're taking an educational approach. Just right off the bat, there's like some objective criteria you can screen for. You want to find somebody who's a fiduciary. And so that's not as easily said as it is done. The easiest way to get to that path is find somebody who's a certified financial planner. Now, obviously that's me as a CFP, so it sounds a little bit self-serving, but really that is the only way you can guarantee that somebody is legally held to account
Yep.
to act as a fiduciary 100% of
Okay.
the time, in
Give
my
me
industry.
10 or less words definition of fiduciary.
Oh, man. That's not going to get me in legal hot water. Fiduciary means advising people what is in their best interest.
Okay,
Actually, 10 on the nose. Look at
look at
that.
that.
Literally just like legally bound to do the right thing for the person, regardless of how it's going to affect your pay.
Right.
And where you see that payout is for people who sell commissionable investments. That's the biggest thing. So, like, you go to any type of insurance salesperson who calls himself a financial
Hmm.
advisor, or if you sell an old fashioned mutual funds, first of all, both those business models are like 20 years old at this point, but there are just so many strings attached. I mean, I sat through a couple weeks ago. I was in a meeting with this dear sweet widow, her two sons, and then this life insurance salesman who the husband had some policies that nobody knew about, and he was there, and it was all right. Now we got to figure out what to do with this death benefit. It was like a 500K death benefit, right? And you're like, oh man, what do you do with this? And he's just going on and on for 2 hours. I mean, he was really old school, probably in his 70s. He had hearing aids on. He had like a Rolex on with the logo of his
Yep.
company inside of it. They're like, he must have done a good year one year. And, he like it was just around and around. Oh yeah, this is why you want to buy life insurance. You want to buy a whole life insurance policy there, or oh, maybe that's not your need. Maybe you need an annuity for income. Like, none of these were helpful or suitable or useful for her at all. But like, each of them would have paid him probably 80 grand in commissions if he convinced her to say yes
Right.
and sign the paper. So like, that's what I mean. Number one,
Yeah.
avoid the commission salespeople. The term, it's a little bit of jargon, is to find a fee only financial advisor, one who is held to fiduciary standard, does not get paid by anybody but the client. So
Nice.
like, no investment companies or insurance companies are paying him, just the client. That would be a big piece. And the easiest way to find that is look for CFPs, because most of us who are CFPs tend not to work at any of those other firms with a lot of mixed interests there.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
think that's really helpful because it takes a lot of the scare out of it. Like knowing, because like you said, there's a lot of times that we know words because we spend all of our time in it. And like the word fiduciary, like it's a scary sounding word. And I'm going to say this, you did, but I liked your definition where it's like, you do what's in the best interest of the other person, like of the client. Like you are an advisor, you are looking out for them. It's kind of like you're a guardian of,
mm,
what they need. And I'm like, it's just parents. Like you want
yeah.
somebody who's going to help you. I love it. Okay, so you talked about that. What are some things that, especially with ADHD, if I'm talking to somebody, what are some things, maybe red flags or things that I can ask that are going to be like, um, for instance, like I know that we tend to have a high tolerance of risk, and
Hmm.
at the same time we tend to disappear and forget about things, or we have a tendency to meddle. So between those three things, high risk, like high tolerance for risk, disappearing for long chunks of time, or meddling in things and changing them constantly. Knowing that we show up, we tend to have those, in our brain. Um, what could we be looking for, or what conversation could we have looking for a financial planner?
Yeah, with those three pieces in mind, I say, like, first off, you want to interview a couple. So I've kind of described already what to look
Mm-hmm.
for. Filter out for fee only advisors, or really just use the certified financial planner board's search tool to find an advisor near you, find one online who you really jive with, you like their content. So now you've like created a little data pool of three potential candidates. Interview all of them. Don't just settle on the first one you find. Talk to each of them and then go, what does your process look like? And if they go, well, we do everything for you. We only work if we manage all of your assets. So we make sure that you roll over any random accounts you have to us. For the meddler, that's not going to jive. It's a really closed loop
Yeah.
ecosystem of like, oh, well, we do all this fancy tax planning. We want to make sure that none of the other cooks in the kitchen mess it up. Sure, it's easier for them operationally,
For
but
sure.
not the only way to do things. I'm not really a big fan of that approach. I'd like to just meet people where they're at normally. So some people I manage their money and that's it. Most people I manage their money and do planning for them. And then some people either don't have any money or I just don't manage it based on where it is. And We just leave it there, and
Yeah.
I just do planning for them. That's actually a lot of people, and I think that's what a lot of business owners need, quite frankly, is somebody who's just very skilled in the planning side
Yeah.
and can kind of separate that out from the money management. That's what's interesting. Like, there's an issue of what do I do with my investments, and then how do I quarterback so I have somebody proactively advising me beyond whatever my accountant is
Yeah.
saying year to year, and whatever my attorney said when he set me up.
Yeah, I like that. It kind of fits with the rhythm that my wife and I settled on. I told you she is the much more structured person in our family.
Hmm.
And what we've done is we have kind of a quarterly meeting, look ahead and see how things are going. But we have an annual planning where it's like we sit down, we go through what has happened, what needs to happen. That's kind of the big one. And then every quarter, it's just kind of like, is the plan working? Yes. That's all I want to know. Like, I literally just want to know that it's working. I don't need anything else. But when it's not working, or they're like, all right, yeah, we need to make some adjustments, like, all of a sudden I come out of nowhere, roll up my sleeves, and I'm like, let's get into this. I got like a calculator, a slide rule. I'm like hyper focused diving in, and it's like, it's so different that I'm either completely in it disengaged, like way over here, letting somebody else know what's happening. But when they go, there's a problem, there's a pattern, like everything in my brain lights up and I dive in. And it was a little bit
Right.
hard to find somebody that was, now I know that I bring that to the table. It's like, this is what's going to happen. Like, just know this is part of the package with me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, if I trust that other person, then I really don't meddle much until they tell me we need to talk about something. And it's like, okay, game on. And there are times that they're
Yeah.
like, it's like game on. And I'm like, all right, I'm here. And they're like, okay, what I actually meant was multiple choice. Which one do you want? And I'm a little bit let down because I'm like, I basically show up. I'm like, I just drink 3 teas, man. I'm like ready to go. And it's like B, okay, but it's that idea where it's like I fall in love with the future that I want,
Hmm.
and now that's what we're doing. We're making choices that should get me there. Like the best choices to aim me in the direction that I want to get. But I'm not going to wake up on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and go, you know what we should do? We should check this and move this and you know like you mentioned earlier, like you don't just wake up. I've never eaten a burrito, taken a nap, woken up and said, "Man, right now, Roth." Like it's just not. It doesn't happen that
Open a
way.
Roth IRA
Yeah,
somewhere.
right now. This is the exact moment I need to do that this year. Okay,
Right.
so I love
And
that
that's what a good advisor is going to do. They're going to say, like, oh, sure, you have this whatever problem that's brought you in here. Yes, I'll give you an answer for that. I'll help you solve that. But this problem is just one symptom of a much broader problem, which is a lack of direction.
yeah,
And they're going to take the time over the course of 2 meetings before they even talk to you about numbers. Like, this is a huge red flag if immediately the advisor is badgering you about, well, how much do you have in your pre-tax bucket? What about your Roth? What about your after? And you're like, wait, what are you talking
yeah.
about?
That's a
My,
great
my
point.
Lowe's bucket out in my tool shed? Like my 5 gallon Lowe's bucket or Menards or Home Depot, wherever you're listening to this one from. Um, what are we talking about? Where like you take a meeting, literally the first one, bare minimum, just to understand who they are, find out about their goals. It's like part consultant, part financial
Yeah,
expert, right? You need to really figure out what their goals even are. Usually they don't know.
yeah,
And so you can help them crystallize what their goals are. Now we can engineer a financial plan backwards into that. And then that advisor is actually going to help the person say, so you told me your goal was to not really leave any kind of legacy. Your current habit of just working a ton, generating a ton of money, and you're like already here in your mid 50s, like you could retire now. You're not planning to for another 10 years. Like your actions are not aligning with your goals.
yeah,
Like how do you think we should
yeah.
solve that?
And
What steps do you want to take?
I love that because, like I say, so much externalize and having that person that will ask a question that will externalize. Because if we're making decisions in motion, we always make the decision to put out a fire. We don't always make the wise decision. But having that
Yeah.
person that pauses the day, who pauses the chaos, having that conversation, and here are a couple of characteristics that I really enjoy about you, Caleb, and why I would trust you, like why I trust you in this field, is um, if I can't smile and joke and have fun with somebody, it's hard for me to trust them or look forward to spending time with them. And the other thing is, with money, I mean, I think in America, I think growing up, our generation, I think even then with ADHD and as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of guilt, shame, a lot of hooks connected to money.
Yeah.
And knowing that I'm going into a conversation about money and If somebody is aggressive in the conversation, for me, that's a no go because
Yeah.
they're adding more stress and they're taking a pace that I can't sustain. And if they're moving me into discomfort, then it's hard to be in a trusting, safe environment. But for you, like we laugh and joke and stuff. Like sometimes I'm worried that once we start recording, it's going to be like, okay, are we going to chase the squirrels and laugh all the time? We got to rein that in. But then when it comes to like you're talking about this, I feel like you settle the room. And when anytime I'm thinking financial planning or the money type stuff or a bookkeeper, it's like, yeah, as an ADHD business owner, I know that I'm going to bring chaos.
Yeah.
And I know that if somebody else can just bring some settle, then I will feel good about it because I can trust, I can project, all that stuff will be there. And I need to know that that person, that my chaos doesn't scare the other person. It's just like a parent. If a kid is scared, the parent doesn't need to get all with them. Like you calm, you get down, and you add peace to the situation because it's like whatever you're afraid of in the dark, I'm bigger than that. You're safe here. And when it comes to
Right.
that financial planner, if it's like, okay, I'm not scared of the financial planning, the you're a business owner, entrepreneur, you have ADHD. If you can find a place where that person isn't scared of that and they're not winding it up, like that's gold. If they can just calm you a little, add a little bit of stability in that moment, I'm like, yeah, I need that because I can ramp myself up. But if there's a person, a
So
service provider in there, they're ramping up. They're like, oh, you could look at this. And if they're getting excited about the stuff that they're offering, it's really hard for my working memory to stay there. You know, I get overwhelmed and I'm just like, I don't trust you anymore because it's like, imagine if I'm taking my wife out on a date. Back in the day, we're just dating, and I drive off without her. Like I pull up to the house, you know, and then it's like I just drive off. Like I don't even get out,
right.
open the door. She's standing there like I'm supposed to get out, open the door or whatever, and I'm like, all right, here we go, boom, and I take off. That's how I feel a lot of times in meetings. If somebody just
Mm.
like takes off and they leave me sitting there, and I'm like, okay, like I thought we were, you know, building a relationship here, figure this out, and no. So
We're gonna make this collaborative, and you just turn this into a pitch now. Now you're
right,
just
and
like getting all excited about, and then you just leave me sitting there like, what's going on? You hit me with some old school sales tactic, like
right,
you ask me to make a decision, and then I watch the advisor go, I'm just gonna
yeah,
sit here, not say anything, and he who talks first loses. Like, cut the old school sales crap here. And just like treat me like a person. Just help me figure out what's
yeah.
best for me.
So I think there's
Yeah,
some good points. That's kind of how I was processing it. Okay, um,
yeah,
I've got another question for you. Say
okay,
somebody, okay, say I'm thinking, okay, I want to have a plan. I want my future to look a little bit better. I'm tired of just hoping, guessing, shoving stuff under the
hmm,
mattress, you know, kind of thinking eventually one day I will arrive at grown up and have investments. Like at some point I will be a grown up enough to plan for the future. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I reach out, maybe have a couple people to talk to. How do I get ready? Like walking into that meeting, like what makes me ready to have that meeting?
yeah,
I guess how do I
yeah.
prepare
That's a
for it?
great
Yeah.
question. So, like bare minimum, let's build out from there. So, I just onboarded two clients last week. Had like our kind of exploratory meeting, if you will.
Yeah.
So we haven't launched in any kind of planning process. We didn't get super deep in all like the goals, the behavioral finance, how did your family of origin view money, none of that stuff. But that'll come. But the first one was literally just, hey, thanks for inquiring. Here's my Calendly link. Would love to connect with you for an hour and just catch up. And they click the link. They book a time. They show up. I showed up. They were both a little late. That's okay. I don't mind at all. That's ADHD for you. And I just talked to both of them. Neither of them knew how much money they were making that year. Neither of them knew how much money was in their financial accounts. They didn't know their login info. One of them wanted to go find it and then couldn't remember it. And like none of that's necessary to get what they needed. They didn't need to do any prep to meet with me. They'd already decided more or less to work with me, but were kind of interviewing me to see if it would be a fit. We just talked through stuff. I said, yeah, based on your situation, I think either of these two services here would be a fit for you. Does one of those look better to you than the other? Here's kind of what that includes. And they go, yeah, I think that one there. That was it. Like, literally, it takes nothing to do that. I think if I had to try to equip them better, like if I could like rewind to a couple weeks prior and be somebody else in their life and feed them some questions like, hey, you're going to talk to some advisor dude, go ask him these questions. I mean, there's so many great ones out there, right? Like, just as a reminder, like if you're hiring an advisor, they're not your financial boss. He works for you. And so you don't need to show up with the most organized spreadsheet, and you don't need to feel any shame about that at all. It's his job. You just hand him the shoebox, hopefully electronically for what it's worth. That's easier. But you just hand him the shoebox full of all the statements and junk. It's his job to sort through it. Feel no shame, no compunction about that. That is what you're paying your advisor for. But yeah, literally just show up to the meeting and ask him good questions like, how do you get paid? Are you a fiduciary? What's your planning process? You're going to pick out a lot of intangibles in hearing that. Like, what is his attitude towards people being late places? What kinds of things does he get excited by, or she? Kind of another point there too. If you're a female business owner listening to this, there is such a lack of good women financial advisors out there. I shouldn't say good. There's a lack of women financial advisors out there, period. Most of the ones that I've met have been better than the majority of the male advisors that I've met. But like there's a lack, understandably so, but those relationships are really special when you can just genuinely connect with somebody that you're like actually laughing with. You can tell they're not putting on a show. They're not coming in and like, so tell me about that tomato garden that you love so much. Like just to small talk you all day long, right? They actually care about you, even if they come off a little awkward, even or I don't know. Be okay with some of those rough spots around the edges that tells you this is a genuine person. This person's like a real
Yeah.
nerd who's actually going to go to bat on my situation. They're not just a like salesperson who claims to have little technical knowledge. I would take the nerd all day long.
Yeah. And something like a couple things you mentioned there, I thought of, with ADHD, a lot of times we mask, especially if we were late diagnosed. Like if we're diagnosed as an adult, we spend a lot of time masking, acting like we have stuff together. One of the things I took away was like, don't mask. Like if you're going to meet with a financial planner, like what you actually want to do is show up as you are. So the prep work, it's kind of like, hey, if you want to pull that stuff together, great. But if you don't have it, you want to know how that person's going to react. Because if you are at a busy time with work, life stuff happens, and you're kind of like, hey, I can't pull this stuff together. How is that person that you're trusting to advise you? Like, you show up as you. Don't show up as a fake or more buttoned up or what fake. Don't pretend a pretend version of yourself, and then hope that you convince the financial advisor that you're a good business owner. Like, no. It's so hard. I mean, I do that all the time, but it's like, how do we, I don't know, that was kind of not really convicting, but very I don't know. I felt like that was just like great advice, and it was very affirming for me. Just be like, you know what? If you're showing up with a financial planner, like even if you're just meeting them the first time, like show up, and if you're a little bit of a hot mess, great. You'll know if it's going to work, as opposed to pretending you have everything buttoned up, and then you're like, oh no, actually, we need everything. Like, don't show up to the meeting unless you did your homework. Well, I tell you what, if my financial planner says don't show up unless you did your homework, like, we're never going to have a meeting again. Like, we're just not.
I got a B minus in school without ever doing homework, so why am I going to show
Yeah.
up there? Right?
It's like, I was on honor
Yeah,
roll.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a client who is so good at this. Like, they're just really ADHD business owner, a couple hundred grand a year, very successful, employees, etc. Really good about just being raw and vulnerable, and like that uncovers things that I wouldn't necessarily catch sometimes. They asked me just to help them walk through some of their bookkeeping statements recently, and I just hired a bookkeeper recently as a kind of a partner of bookkeeping services, and that's a new thing I'm going to be rolling out for clients. But so this particular client of mine does not use that yet because it's not really up and running as of the time of this recording. And so I'm looking at the books there, like, okay, yeah, I understand this. And then they were just really vulnerable and said, I don't really understand this stuff. My accountants explained it to me. So I just took like 20, 30 minutes and did it. It's kind of a little outside of my lane. I mean, I'm fluent in it, but bookkeeping does not float my boat. That's why I have somebody else who it does. And so I talked that through. They said, I feel a lot better about it. But by the course of me doing that, I caught that their accountant has been filing them as the incorrect tax status that seems better on paper. And it is the correct one, but is incorrect because the accountant never actually helped them to create a legal entity when they got started on
So,
it. The
so
client
they
and the
never
accountant both
filed the paperwork.
assumed that they had an LLC, but they
Yeah.
never did have the LLC. So
Oh,
this whole time, the taxes have been incorrect, and they've been taking on lots of risk of having no liability coverage.
yeah.
So I said, here's the name of my two favorite attorneys in the area who can help you get this up and running in the next week or two. And then I followed up with that person
Yeah.
3 times over the next week until we actually got something together. And so, like, that's what should be happening.
Yeah.
You should feel vulnerable enough to come out. Otherwise, that could have gone missed for years.
Yeah, for sure. And man, that's I said all the time, like the first two people I say you should pay are a lawyer and like a CP, like an accountant. Like pay them because they will keep you out of jail. It is their job to keep you out of jail. Like, and I even if
One
LegalZoom is your
lawsuit
lawyer,
away.
fine. I'm just saying like pay
Yeah.
somebody to keep you out of jail, and then everything else, if it's a law, you can't break it. Pay people to help you with the laws. If it's rules, you know, most of them bend or can be broken. Like they weren't designed for us.
Right.
All right, so I know we need to wrap up. I have found this. This has been really nice, Caleb. Like it's we've broken it down. It's been more understandable than most places people put it out there. Um,
Mm.
so just to kind of recap, where I'm walking away from, like, how do you know you're ready? Basically, you have money and you want it to do something. You want something down the road. You just want something different. You want to know that your money's going to work for you. It's going to be there at the end of the river when you arrive, and you can do it intentional. How do you find someone? Like you said, you find the uh, CFP, fiduciary. Like those are kind of some words that you're going to be looking for, searching, and really looking for. Are they commission based? Are they getting kicked back? Kind of is that how they are? They a salesperson, or are they
Yeah.
required to have my best interest? And then you said, just talk to them. How do you prepare for the meeting? Just talk to them. Talk to a couple of them. See how it feels. Can you trust them? Can you interact with them? If you have numbers, if you have accounts that you can bring, then obviously they will be able to give you better feedback or better ideas. But really, I think it's more important that have they helped other people, and can you trust them? Can you communicate with them? Because money is hard, and especially future money, like my future, my wife's future, my kids, like whatever's out there on the horizon, it's hard to trust somebody else with that. So it's hard to trust ourselves with that when we have ADHD. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think we always kind of default to like, oh, they're these really scary, intimidating places. I look on their team photos on their website and they have like 6 dudes all wearing suit and tie and like I can't wear my shorts and t-shirts to the
yeah,
office. Like, no, wear the short and t-shirt on the office or the Zoom call. Hopefully they're set up to do Zoom call
yeah,
and do things online in today's world, and that tells you a little bit about their sophistication. But yeah, I think it's just really essential to find somebody that you jive with and you connect with that you can
yeah.
trust at the end of the
And
day, and knowing it's just going to be like a couple $100 that you pay per month to ideally have that amount that you have to pay for it return multiples over in tangible value they
right.
provide for investment growth, tax savings, all of
And
that.
you mentioned something that I did want to bring up. The idea of like on Zoom or in person. I would say
Mm.
figure out what works best for you. There are times that I do fine on Zoom. I spend a lot of time on Zoom. Works great for me. I don't get Zoom fatigue. Apparently, it's a thing other people have. I don't know. But in person, I know a lot of people that in person works best because they can be focused in the presence, being at the same space. So think about it like if in person works better for you in your ADHD, like yeah, lean toward that. If Zoom is better, because I know I have several clients that I even have one client that was 15 minutes from, like his office, 15 minutes from my office. We've never actually met in person because his ADHD, it is hard to get on his calendar and he shows up late to stuff. Like he just runs. His time blindness is off the chart. But wherever he is, I mean, I have taken calls with him. Like we've hopped on Zoom calls when he's going through a car wash. Like it could be anything, right? It's just like, if his phone is with him, we can have a Zoom call. And it's like, if
Yeah.
that's how you're operating, then maybe Zoom is the best option. Maybe in person. Think about which one's best for you when you're looking for somebody. Are they going to be able to meet you where you are? Okay, so before we wrap up, I do have a question because you mentioned a ham loaf, and I got to know first off, what
Yes.
is this metaphor? And then second off, what is a ham loaf?
Yes, dude. So I forgot. Thank you for bringing this back full circle. We were talking food beforehand, and food's been on my mind kind of the whole recording session, anyways. So a ham loaf is very popular in South Central Pennsylvania, and I'm not a native here, so this was new to me when I came here over a decade ago. I'm originally from Delaware. Like that's the land of crabs and scrapple. Scrapple's a whole other niche thing. I guess a ham loaf's not too dissimilar, but a ham loaf is something that like the Mennonite and Amish and Pennsylvania Dutch combination has really popularized. It's like pork in a pie tin, but think of like a rectangular shaped pie
Mm-hmm.
tin that you might bake a little bread into or something,
Yeah,
but it's filled with like ground up pork mixed with I don't know exactly
stuff.
mixed with some random junk and like kind of sweet tasting, and sometimes they'll serve it with pineapple slices and a glaze on it or something, but it sounds really disgusting verbalizing it, but it tastes amazing. It's like a Christmas tradition. My point about ham loaf, though, was, and this is where the metaphor comes in. There's a lot of vendors where you could buy ham loaf around me in South Central Pennsylvania between Philly and Baltimore. But the one good place that everybody knows of is called Gene Wanger's, and it's like 5 minutes from my house. And it's this tiny little, like the size of a house business that this dude was like a just pillar of his community, right? And everybody knows if you're gonna get ham loaf, Gene Wanger's is the only thing worth talking about. Nothing else is worth like he's in all the grocery stores. You can see this tiny little section there, and it's all these frozen Gene Wanger ham loaves because it's the best by far. And the metaphor was whatever area you live in, or if you're comfortable using an advisor online, then whatever community you're in, whatever niche or culture, subtype, whatever, find somebody who's like the boutique specialist there. Do not just buy a ham loaf off the shelf from anywhere, right? Or like don't, barbecue restaurants. I think we said that too. Like there has not been a single successful chain barbecue restaurant that I've ever seen. It's all these like independent mom and pop shops that are the best barbecue places around. And it's kind of similar. Like there are going to be lots of financial advisors and insurance places anywhere you go on Main Street America. I could name some of the big ones right now that are either named after people's
But
names.
we're not
Will
going
sound
to.
pretty similar.
We're gonna stay
Some of
safe.
like you said, don't say them.
Yeah, I said we're not saying them. We're staying safe.
Yeah, we're not saying them. Especially people's names would be one, or anything with the word mutual in it is probably a danger because that's the sign of an insurance company. And just because they're everywhere does not mean they're actually that good at all. Kind of like McDonald's. If you want a burger, that's not the place to go get the burger. So look for the high end boutique wealth management shops in your town or registered investment advisories, whatever it is. I would just encourage you to go small here because the best guys in the business they just go into business for themselves. They don't waste time being employees. So that's my advice.
All right.
That's the ham blow. Find Gene Wanger.
All right. I'm gonna have to come up there, try this out. Um,
Oh,
okay, so thank you, Caleb, for breaking that down, for walking us through it, because I know years ago I wish I'd had this conversation because there was so much time that I spent just not making progress because it was overwhelming. I felt dumb. It was like I can't put up with the people. I don't like the way they treat me. I don't like the way I feel, or I'm not ready, or one day I'll be grown enough. I'll be grown up enough to have a plan for my future. I'll be looking at retirement. I wish, I
yeah.
mean, we're in a good situation now, but I wish I had, I mean, honestly, I wish I knew about this when I was a teenager, when I was like, what career do I want?
Yeah.
What path? Like, what do I, like, if I had started planning then, it's like, what better way to start a job than to know how you're going to end? Like, that is how a plan
Yeah.
works, right? But so many of us, we've started our business and we just need to look at it and go, okay, I like to talk about vessels like boats. And it's like, if you're in a boat, if you have an employer, you're on a boat and you're going wherever they send you. When you build your own business, you know, you get in a boat and you have to decide if that business is taking you where you want to go. Is it somewhere you want to go? And that's my whole point of like, we talked about, growing wealth. Like the point of the business is that there's money on the other side of it, and that money can get you where you want to be. It can provide the future that you want. So if you're running a business, is that boat taking you where you want to go? And you go, okay, how do you have a financial plan so that that business can create assets that are turned into the plan, turned into the future that you want? And then, like you point out all the time, it's like, and don't forget, you might sell the boat when you get there. Like,
Yeah.
why not make the boat
Ideally.
sellable, right? That for a lot of business owners, that the business has eaten up. It is the biggest investment that they've made of putting assets into it. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it may not be sellable. And part
It
of
might just be, yeah, it might just be the little boat that you row out there and then say, thanks for everything, boat.
right,
And I think too, like a lot of people tend to go, oh, I can just row the boat forever. Never really need to get to the other, but eventually you're going to get too old where you
yeah,
don't have the physical ability to row it or the mental ability how to row it straight anymore, and it makes it really difficult.
right. So yeah, we have a plan before we get there. Not to end
Yeah.
on a sad note. Happily ever after. That's where we're aiming, y'all. All right,
Yeah.
man, this has been great, Caleb. Do you have any other thoughts? Any other like things percolate to the top or ADHD moments where you're like, oh, and this?
I don't think so this time. I think you just had great questions, Jake. And yeah, I would say, again, if anybody's out there who's feeling at all intimidated about the idea of talking to an advisor, then if that's the case and your reality meets that expectation, try a different advisor. You should not be intimidated to talk to. It should be somebody who's like a friend and a financial coach. Think about it that way rather than some like banker type money manager dude. Somebody coming off that way who does not actually have an office on Wall Street is probably just blowing a ton of steam and really doesn't know what they're doing by comparison. They just make up for that by trying to sound important. So find somebody you can get along with who's actually going to help you with your life goals.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. All the like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your mom, all that kind of stuff. Tell your kids. Yeah. Uh, if you have questions, hit us up. Links will be down below. Yeah, do all the stuff. But hey, it's your business. Change the rules.